From 2.5 million years ago to just 10,000 years ago, food was wild, unpredictable, and scarce. Vicious predators ruled the landscape, and tomorrow was a distant future for most of our ancestors. As a result, we developed powerful instincts, efficient fat stores, a hypersensitive stress response, and a bias towards instant gratification. Fast forward to today, food is everywhere, predators are gone, and pleasure is within an arm's reach. So, what happens when instincts honed over millions of years suddenly meet a world of abundance? To succeed today, we have to fight those very instincts that once kept us alive. It's an unfair tug of war between the ancient limbic system and the much more recent, the new kid on the block, which is the prefrontal cortex. Psychologists and economists have mapped these ancient instincts into models of human behavior. And one of the clearest examples where we see this manifest is in the way that we perceive value, something called hyperbolic discounting. We value rewards much less the further out they are in the future, but not in a straight line. The value drops steeply at first and then levels off. That's why a single scoop of ice cream right now feels more tempting than 2 scoops next week. Thanks to this built-in bias, we procrastinate on goals, we succumb to addictions, we rack up credit card debt, and we see greater value in buying a new car now than saving and investing for the future. To combat this bias, we have 2 options. One is to change the way we think, and the second is to change the world that we live in. Believe it or not, the first option is much easier. And I don't mean change the world, I mean change your world. Imagine living in a space with no TV, no video games, no junk food, no internet even. Most people would call this sad. Like, why are you living such a sad life? Is it sadder than being torn apart by meaningless distractions every single day that you really never chose in the first place? Of course, the internet is essential for work and study, but the siren song of distraction is calling out to us every single minute that we're online. To stay on course, just as an aside, I highly recommend Cold Turkey and Opal. These are 2 apps which let you block out certain domains for scheduled periods. And using these apps is kind of similar to when Odysseus ties himself to the mast of his ship. Basically, make decisions when you're fully conscious and present, rather than in moments of weakness. Changing your thought patterns is much harder than changing your environment, and in my opinion, should only come after you've done that. If your environment is set up against your goals, and it's easy to be distracted, then the lizard brain will almost always win the tug of war when it comes to decision making. That being said, it is possible to train the more rational part of your brain. Studies show that visualizations and pre-experiencing events can deter hyperbolic discounting to an extent. When you vividly imagine an experience, it actually lights up the same parts of your brain as if you were actually living it. So evolution in this case gave us an incredibly powerful weapon of vivid imagination. So when you do this, it makes the reward seem more valuable now. And this shifts the perceived value timeline, right? So it actually makes you more motivated to do the thing that gives you that reward. Personally, what I think is extremely powerful is visualization and pre-experiencing your future identity. Basically, project yourself in the future and see yourself as this humble, kind, hardworking person. And when you are trying to make a decision, ask yourself, what would this person do? And it's extremely fulfilling to see your identity shift over time and to see yourself becoming this person, as opposed to visualizing the rewards of some sort of a task that you're trying to do, which can be a little bit more extrinsic. Another curse of evolution is our insatiable desire for more, aka hedonic adaptation. Basically, given enough time, we'll adapt to almost anything. You lose a limb, in a couple of months, you'll learn to cope. Or on the flip side, if you win the lottery, the thrill will eventually die. The same system that keeps us resilient during hard times also robs us of our satisfaction. The reason we're like this is because natural selection favored people who always wanted more. And this was because it was almost always hard times back then. And the more shit you had, the more likely you were to survive. So, how do you overcome this? Hedonic adaptation happens when you forget how good your life is. So, what do? You remind yourself of how good your life is. You have to savor the little wins and take time every day to think about, or better yet, write about what you're grateful for that day. Another interesting way to combat this is by getting into a flow state. When you develop mastery over some skill, be it climbing or painting or playing an instrument, you tap into this stable sense of joy that doesn't really fade. You don't get used to how good it feels when you're playing the violin. Like, it doesn't get boring the more you do it. And this applies with any activity where your sense of self dissolves and time starts to fly by. Hyperbolic discounting and hedonic adaptation are two sides of the same coin. The first makes the future seem less appealing, and the second makes the present seem less satisfying over time. But when you can identify these traps, you can start to avoid them. You can't alter your DNA, but you might be able to outsmart it.